Hello guys, it's Yanzi here today, just to do a video on my own. So this will be a format that I'm trying out, see how things work out. Let's look at something that happened on Twitter today. So we had this debate for a while now talking about separating the art from the artist. After all, if you're unable to do that, imagine the amount of entertainment you slip out of. There is no human being you agree with 100% of the time. And I think this problem has been exacerbated by the fact that nowadays everyone has social media. So you can hear what everyone is thinking about every single minute of the day. And obviously, you're going to come across conflicting viewpoints, some of which you may not enjoy. And when that happens, unfortunately, that leads to people trying to cancel each other. That's why I'm a big fan of the idea of separating the art from the artist. So today, the debate is from Junior Norris here saying, pretty sure your own politics inform your choices to watch which creators' works you find value in, and they more likely align with certain creators and not others. Now, guys, I don't know if you remember a time before the internet, and especially before social media. Before all that, comic creators, you probably don't even know what they look like, let alone what their political viewpoints are, because guess what? That is not actually important to the story they're writing. For all you know, somebody could be a raging lefty, or somebody can be crazy right-wing, who knows? If they don't actually put that in the book, you probably won't even know. But it seems to be a thing now where they want to find out, well, who do you vote for? And then, oh, if it doesn't align with what they want, let's cancel them. So my stance is that, in general, the normies, the people on the streets, they don't really care what your politics are. If we want to bring this in relation to comic book, we need to realize that you want to put politics in your comics, that's fine. You have to put values that are considered universal, such as racism is bad, war is damaging, etc., etc. Not, I made everyone gay because I too am gay. So, in response to Junior Norris, I had to show them a tweet here from the creator of Galaxy, the Prettiest Star, a YA novel from DC Comics where they introduce this character over here. Yes, this character over here, that is Galaxy. And obviously, they are gay. So, I mean, hey, whatever. That's what they're feeding your kids these days, guys. And also, of course, Galaxy the Prettiest Star also is about trans metaphor and all that stuff. Seriously, I mean, I hear people say good things about it if you're into that kind of stuff. If you're into it, why not go for it? I'm not going to gatekeep and say, you can't buy this book because it's about whatever. What am I, the thought police? So I said, let me know if this reads the superhero hot girl comics, which is what readers are asking for. Or is it LGBTQ plus comics? Now, the reason why I made that comment is because the writer here is choosing to advertise the book in this way. Now, you will say, yes, it's a panel taken out of context. But at the same time, when you're the writer, you are responsible for marketing your book to the biggest audience you can possible. Because after all, the goal of every writer is to get their book out to as many people as possible. You don't just want to say target only one demographic when you sell your book, because that really limits your sales numbers. Especially now, when we look at certain lawsuits like the Penguin Random House lawsuit, we find out that it is actually very much the writer's responsibility to advertise the books themselves. It is not so much the publishers anymore. So how the writer presents their content, very important. And if they want to present it as this is an LGBTQIA plus content book, I'm going to read it as that exactly. Of course, the writer replied back to me, trying to explain that, no, this is not all it's about. And I'm like, well, then please sell it to me as a superhero book. Tell me who or what they're fighting for. Tell me how they're making the world better for the entirety of humanity. Convince me to part with my dollar for it. Don't market it mainly as LGBTQ plus content. And I think that's a really fair thing to say, because after all, Hot Girl, as far as I know, is mainly a superhero title, which means I'm expecting superhero contents. Everything else, whether it's romance or family problems, all these, they're all called subplots. They shouldn't be advertised as the main plot, especially if it's the first time you're trying to convince a reader, hey, open your wallet and let me sell this book. How did that end up? They actually deleted the tweet where they wrote to me, but they actually tweeted me this exact image to tell me, look at how great all these covers are. That is my storytelling. And it's like, no, that's not storytelling. Those are just a bunch of nice looking covers. And if all I wanted a bunch of nice looking covers, I can buy a poster or a print. Sell me the book. Tell me why it's worth me paying $3.99 or $4.99 or whatever price it is right now. But no, it's Hot Girl is a great book. So even this revised tweet is like, it's a great book. There's breathtaking art, there's innovative lettering, and my story is top notch. You know what this sounds like, right? This sounds like when back in the early 2000s, they would say, stop telling people that you have a dynamic business team. Dynamic by itself means nothing. So in this case, I'll say top notch means nothing. What is top notch? Tell me what specifically makes it top notch. Do you introduce a grand new villain? Do you introduce perhaps some twist in her background that changes the aspects of her characters that we've come to know? Is that too much to ask for? One reason why I really don't like the way that writers, especially, are trying to market to us their products now in this way to say, yeah, the sexuality is this big selling point of the characters. One reason why I think that really fails is, well, let's look at how it turned out when, say, DC came up with Chinese Superman. I mean, he's obviously targeted at the Chinese market. He's carrying a China flag. Now think about it. The motivation is very simple. There are over 1 billion Chinese people, ethnic Chinese people in the world, actually close to 2 billion. Imagine if just 1% of them would pick up a DC comic book. Wow. And imagine if you can convince them to buy more than just one DC comic book. You can convince them to buy your Green Lanterns or your Supergirls. Imagine what a bonanza that would be. Now, as far as I know, and all the people I've talked to, especially in Singapore, nobody cares about Chinese Superman. Everyone only wants Clark Kent Superman. That's the only version of Superman they care about. When they look at this, they're like, yeah, it's kind of on the nose what they're trying to do. Another example I want to bring up is, today I actually talked to an Indian, and I said, you heard about Indian Spider-Man? And she was like, oh, I never even knew that existed. Like, bravo, Marvel, great marketing. Now, again, we all know the motivations for creating Indian Spider-Man. This was actually talked about in the offices, I believe, so no secret about it. They thought, with a population of over 1 billion ethnic Indians, that if you can convince them, again, like the Chinese Superman thing, if you can convince them to buy a Marvel comic, then somehow they'll read your other Marvel books and there'll be a big windfall for your company. You'll be selling millions of copies of comics all across the country of India or something like that. I guess that's their plan. Now, from what I can tell, ladies and gentlemen, the Indians themselves don't care about Indian Spider-Man. Looking at these two examples, Chinese Superman, Indian Spider-Man, you try to create them to represent the specific demographic that you're trying to capture the market share of, and it didn't work out. So why in the name of all that's good that you would think somehow that if you create LGBTQIA plus representation, you'll be able to capture the LGBTQIA plus demographic and get them to buy your books? I mean, are you trying at least to put those books specifically into places that sell LGBTQIA plus related merchandise? I think that would help a little more than to say trying to stock LGBTQIA plus Hot Girl or whatever other books. You want a new audience, you should go to where the new audience is. Of course, this all boils down to people telling us, just don't read it since it clearly isn't made for you. See, this is the attitude that is landing the comic market where it is right now. Over 79% of the sales in the American comic book industry is attributed to manga alone, which means the scant 20+% split between YA and the rest of the American comic book market. And trust me, guys, you don't want to know how much YA took out of that chunk. It leaves American comics in a pretty sorry state. Like, if they could get me to open my wallet to this Hot Girl book, they really should try at the very least. Again, more examples of what is being said. Just admit what we all know. You are a bigot. Plain and simple. Yes, guys, because I wouldn't open my wallet to your book, that makes me a bigot. You see what this is? They're basically trying to say that if you don't support this character by paying for that book, you are whatever we called you. You are an istophobic, racist, misogynistic, whatever. That's really great marketing, guys. Really great marketing. So speaking of the marketing aspect, I kind of want to say this, and that is, guys, you're welcome to have your Hot Girl books with all the representation you want. If DC Comics wants to print it, they should be allowed to. I don't gatekeep any books from existing. In the same way, you cannot force me to open my wallet to books I don't want. So what does that mean? I think you should have LGBTQIA plus comic books on the shelves. I think you should have romance comic books on the shelves. I think you should have sci-fi, fantasy, all kinds of genres on the shelves. But I want it to be clearly marked as well. After all, if I'm picking up a superhero book, I am obviously looking for superheroics to read about. If you want to give me a subplot about romance or family, all that stuff, that's fantastic. So what is the big issue over here? Big issue over here is that creators somehow are trying to use sexuality as the main marketing tool now. This, of course, is the best example. You can say, yes, one panel, Yanzi, you're taking it out of context. I'm not taking it out of context. This is literally how the writer chose to advertise their hot girl book. To tell me these are the sexuality of the characters, just so you know, to clarify any misunderstandings or anything that's unclear. Okay. They did that, of course, with Jonathan Kent's Superman, Superboy, whatever you want to think of that. We all know how the book went eventually. There was this expectation, after all, that if you want to do a book and you advertise the character as bisexual, gay, whatever it is, you would expect that to be a main storyline. So in the business world, we have this thing called the elevator pitch, whereby you have 30 seconds in the elevator with your CEO, and you have to convince him to invest in your idea. So how these writers are marketing it now is pretty much the equivalent of the elevator pitch. They have 30 seconds to convince me that this book is worth me buying. And if you have 30 seconds, what do? You tell them the most important thing about the product, the idea, whatever, right? I mean, that's how you tell people to buy something, right? The key point about marketing is to always sell the most important thing. And when all these writers here, like when you tell me, well, Jonathan Kent is bisexual, Tim Drake Robin here, yeah, the point of buying this comic book here is because he goes on a date with his boyfriend, Bernard. Okay. Or more recently, Tim Sheridan, calling out Comicsgate and saying that you have to buy my gay Alan Scott Green Lantern book. This way we can show up all those istophobic bigots in Comicsgate. Yes, so what is the story again, Tim? It's a gay Alan Scott. So that means that I really should expect to read about a gay romance in there, right? Because after all, that is what you chose to focus on, the gayness of Alan Scott. So guys, if you have only 30 seconds and you choose to advertise the fact that the characters are LGBTQIA+ in a book, then by George, that better be an LGBTQIA+ comic book. Oh, wait, it isn't? It's actually a superhero book about Jonathan Kent? When you put it like that, you must realize that people are then expecting you to have storylines about his romance with his boyfriend Jay Nakamura and all that. And I guess that did happen because we all know how the sales of the book went, and it's no longer an ongoing book, let's put it that way. We all know also what happened to the Tim Drake book. I think the only thing I really want here is that when I pick up a superhero book, I want the predominant aspect of the book to be about superheroics. So when writers advertise to me and tell me that it's about this character's sexuality, I'm like, okay, well, that's obviously not for me, because that is what you consider most important about this character, not their superheroism, but their sexuality. And that is probably why you see less and less people picking up comic books now. You may say it's all anecdotal, but trust me, the number of comic store owners crying out about low sales and all that, you add up all their voices, and I can tell you it's a pretty intimidating sight right now for the creators especially. So guys, I'd like to tell you all, support independent, support any books you like. I will not say you have to buy this book or you're a racist, bigot, or whatsoever, because guess what? You have control over your wallet. You have control over what you consume. Nobody can force you to buy a book you do not want. And that is something that's really frightening a lot of creators now. Axcend level up. Spider-Man meets Tron. A bunch of gamers bring the virtual reality world into their real world. And so the consequences become real as well. We'd like to request you to hit like and subscribe and ring the bell for notification. And I'll see you again on another video.
I dream of a world carefully crafted, beautifully flawed. This is Axcend. In this game of life, there is one thing that determines a victor. A player's ability to grow. A player's ability to evolve. A player's ability to survive. My name is Dog. Choose to play. Choose to upgrade. Choose to level up. Choose to Axcend.